Hello everyone, welcome back to Animals with Nianne. Today we're talking about an animal that I genuinely adore. And yes, I know I say that about every animal. I mean, can you blame me? All animals are really cool. But the animal that I will be talking about today is the humpback whale. They're massive, very intelligent, and still gentle. In this video I'm going to take you through their anatomy, their insanely long migrations, their behavior and songs, how they raise their cows, what they eat, and of course the threats that they're facing today. So let's dive right in. So how is a humpback whale built for life in the ocean? Because when you look at them, they're massive giants. Like, how are they able to float? And how do they not sink? They're absolutely enormous. They're up to 60 meters long and they weigh around 36 tons. So you think staying afloat will be quite a challenge for them, but their bodies are actually designed to stay afloat in the ocean. First of all, humpback whales have a very thick layer of blubber. And yes, it keeps them warm, but it also has another purpose. It also makes them more buoyant. The body shapes also helps a lot. Even though they're huge, they're also very streamlined. It reduces drag and lets them glide through the water with less effort than you would probably imagine. Their lungs are surprisingly important too. Humpback whales take on a massive breath on the surface and they can control how much air they want inside of the lungs depending if they want to stay afloat or if they want to dive deeper in the water. More air means more buoyancy, less air means that they can sink more easily. And then we have their flippers and tail. Those long pectoral fins, the lungs of any whale, help them to steer and stabilize themselves. Their huge tail flukes provide all the power they need to keep moving, especially during deep dives or when they breach. Another cool thing that you might not expect from them is that the bumps on their head and their flippers, called tubercles, actually help them with water flow. These tubercles make little swirls of water that make the whale more maneuverable. So even though they're massive, they're surprisingly very agile. And instead of teeth, I think most people already know this, but they have baleen plates that help them fill their food, which also means that their skull is lighter than when they would have had jaw full of teeth, because that teeth are quite heavy. So yeah, humpback whales don't sink because their entire body is basically a perfect balance of buoyancy, muscle, blubber, and streamlined design. They may be huge, but they're perfectly adapted to the ocean life. Where do humpback whales live? Basically everywhere. Next topic. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, but they basically live all around the world, from the freezing water near Antarctica to the warm tropical seas near the equator. But they don't just stay in one place, they travel a lot. Like a lot. In the summer months, humpback whales are usually in colder environments where food is in abundance. Places like Antarctica, Alaska, Ireland, Norway, and the northwest coast of Canada. When winter comes, they migrate and they travel very far. Some populations swim around 8,000 to 10,000 kilometers one way, which is one of the longest migrations ever known of any mammal on Earth. They will travel to warm places like Hawaii, Mexico, Tonga, Costa Rica, and the Caribbean. In these warm areas, they will give birth, and there's also where the mating happens. There's not a lot of food there, so they barely eat in this period. They mainly live off their reserves. And what I find really cool is that every generation has its own migration route. They return to the same feeding grounds and the same breeding grounds year after year, and calves usually learn these routes from their mothers or even grandmothers. So in short, humpback whales live all over the planet. Summers in cold, food-filled places, and in winter in warm places where there's less food. For such huge animals, their behavior is a lot more complex than we might think. Let's start with something they're famous for, their acrobatics. You'll see them breaching, which is when they launch their huge body out of water, or you'll see tail slaps, fin slaps, rolling, even upside down swimming, all crazy things. Scientists believe that these behaviors can be for communication, play, or even getting rid of parasites. Their social behavior is also very interesting. They're not strictly solitary, but they're also not very group focused. It's kind of like a casual hangout species. Mothers will stay with the calves, and males sometimes follow females for long periods, which is called an escort. It's just a way for competing for a chance to mate. During breeding or migration areas, you'll see temporary groups forming, but these groups are usually short-lived, they're just for convenience. And then also there's the singing. Unfortunately, not that much is known about whales singing. As far as I know, is that only males sing, and their songs are incredibly complex. A single song can last from a couple of minutes to a couple of hours, and all the males in the population will also change the songs over time. The strongest theory so far about these songs is that they're related to mating chances and male display. They also communicate through body movement and other sounds. For example, they'll slap their tails, release bubbles, and deep calls that can be heard from miles away through the ocean. It's a whole language we're still trying to understand. How do humpback whales reproduce? It all starts when a female is ready to reproduce. Generally, every 2 to 3 years, she will give birth. She becomes sexually mature around 4 to 7 years, although this varies by region. Mating and conception happens in warm areas, like I've mentioned before, during the winter season. Males will compete for females. They will do this, like I've also said before, follow female closely for a couple of periods. After conception, the gestation time is about 11 to 12 months. The female gives birth to a single calf, again in warm tropical waters. The calf is born at around 4 to 6 meters long. After birth, the calf will nurse on the mother's milk, which is very high in fats, and they will do this for about 6 to 10 months. During this time, the mother protects and guides the calf. It will teach the migration routes and helps it build up strength for the long journeys ahead. Scientists believe that humpback whales can live up from 80 to 90 years, but the ages that we can actually confirm are closer to 50 years. So the real maximum age of the humpback whale is still quite a mystery. Because with a body that can weigh around 36 tons, you'd think they have to eat pretty big meals, right? Well, yes and no. Humpback whales don't eat big prey like seals or other whales. They actually eat one of the most smallest things in the ocean. Their diet is mainly krill, small schooling fish like herring, sardines, anchovies, and sand lance. Even though the prey is tiny, they eat a lot of it. During feeding season, an adult can eat up to 1.3 tons every day. The way they catch the food is the coolest part. They use something that's called lunge feeding, and it's spelled like Lunga, not lunch, like lunch. Got it? They will dive underneath a group of fish. They will swim up fast with their mouth wide open and take a giant gulp of water and fish. Then they will push out the water through their baleens, which again acts like a giant filler. The fish will stay inside of the mouth and the water will go out. Some populations will also use bubble net feeding, which is a very impressive hunting strategy. A group of whales will dive down together, blow bubbles in a circle around the fish, and create a net of rising bubbles. The fish get trapped inside, and then the whales will all rush up through the middle with their mouths open. Honestly, it's pretty iconic. According to the IUCN Red List, this was assessed at 24 March 2018 and it's listed as least concern globally, but some subpopulations like in the Arabian Sea are still considered endangered. Globally things are better than they used to be, but in regional areas they may still be challenged. Some key threats are entanglement in fishing nets, or like fishing gear in general, I have to say. So whales get caught in nets, lines or traps, which can injure the whale or even kill them. Another thing that unfortunately happens is visual collision. Because they surface and have to breathe air, whales are vulnerable to large boats hitting them. Well, fortunately, most boats have improved solar GPS systems. I don't know, but they're better at predicting where whales are and seeing the whales sooner than before, so it's getting better, but still it can happen that boats injure whales. Another threat is habitat pollution, for example oil spills in the ocean, chemical pollutants, plastic debris is a big one that's happening now in oceans. And just like pretty much everywhere regarding every animal on this planet, climate change and food web disruption is a thing. Because of changes in ocean temperature, which then also affects the prey availability like the krill and the other small fish, eventually also have a negative impact on humpback whales. There's one thing that I want to talk a little bit more about because it shaped the entire history of whales in general, and that's commercial whaling. Let me teach you a bit of history. For most of the 1800s and 1900s, humpbacks were hunted heavily for their oil, meat and baleen. Their predictable migration routes made it easy to find them, and many populations dropped more than 80 to 90%. Some populations were even completely wiped out. Everything changed in 1986, thank God, when the International Whaling Commission introduced a global ban on commercial whaling. Since then, many humpback populations have made an amazing recovery. It's actually one of the best marine conservation stories that we have. But not all groups have fully bounced back. A few small populations are still endangered today. So even though whaling is not longer allowed, its impact is still part of their story. And luckily, humpback whales aren't facing these threats alone. There's some amazing organizations working every day to protect them and the oceans that they depend on. One of these organizations is the Pacific Whale Foundation. They do a lot of research on whale behavior, migration, and population health, and they work really hard on education and conservation to make sure that the whales are protected. Another great organization is Ocean Alliance. They focus on marine mammal research and develop technology to study whales in a non-invasive way. For example, using drones to collect low samples without disturbing the animals. And lastly, there's the Marine Mammal Center. They work on rescue, rehabilitation, and research. They run programs aimed at improving ocean health and protecting marine mammals, including whales. All of these groups contribute in different ways, through science, outreach, or hands-on care, and they're helping to make oceans a safer place for humpback whales. And that's it for today's deep dive into humpback whales. I honestly loved making this one. They're such incredible, ginormous animals, with so many cool behaviors and stories behind them. If you enjoyed learning more about them, please leave a like, or leave a comment about which animal you would like to hear more the next time, or leave a comment about the humpback whales. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask. I always love hearing your comments about the videos and about animals in general. As usual, I'll link the organizations down below in the description box, and also of course the sources that I use for this video. If you want to hear more about animals, please feel free to subscribe. It would help me out a lot. For now, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.